Our first speaker is Logan Mannix from Mannix Ranch and Mannix Grass-Fed Beef. He is, and great, thanks for the slide. And so he is the fifth generation of his family to live and work on the family ranch in Helmville, Montana. It was homesteaded in 1882 and currently owned and operated by members of the fourth and fifth generations. We saw one of the sixth generation before we all got on tonight. He's going to talk about the ranch, so I can keep this brief. And if you don't know what a stocker rate is, you're going to find out. Okay, if we could run that video. And don't forget to type your questions in the chat.
(1882). Hello, my name is Logan Mannix, and I help manage my family's ranch in Helmville, Montana, which was homesteaded in 1882. The ranch is currently managed by both members of the fourth and fifth generations of the family. We manage about 50,000 acres. About a third of that is owned, a third leased from private landowners, and a third leased from state and federal owners. We're a cow-calf operation, raising about 1,250 cow-calf pairs each year, 400 to 700 stockers each year. We have a locally marketed grass-finished beef enterprise and a small timber enterprise on the ranch. In terms of climate change models predict in our area increased temperatures and increased variability in both temperatures and precipitation. We may see more severe weather events and possibly more winter and spring precipitation with less summer precipitation. And while I hesitate to call this climate data, I think our observations over the last 4 or 5 years seem to fit this pattern. In 2017, we had a record drought where we didn't receive any precipitation for almost 2 months. In 2018, we had a record snowfall year with 3 late April blizzards. We started a pasture and rainfall insurance program about 3 years ago. It pays out if you have less than 30-year averages, a certain amount less than 30-year average rainfall. And it's paid out for drought in each of the last 3 years. That can impact a ranching operation in a lot of ways. It can present challenges with our mountain water systems. The springs can dry up that feed these water tanks. When forages dry up with no rain in the summer and the fall, you can have decreased weight gain and also decreased breed up percentages. Fire can, of course, threaten your timber resources, and we're seeing more of those. We also think we've lost timber to the beetle kill epidemic that is also influenced by climate change. On the other side of variability, some of these late spring storms have presented quite a bit of challenges for us calving on pasture in the early spring. The flooding events that followed presented their own challenges. A hail event can destroy a crop in a single event, so extreme precipitation events can also be challenging. But the single biggest impact, and I think the most important impact of climate change, will be drought and variability in precipitation. And drought impacts ranches primarily because it affects our stocking rate, or the number of cattle that we can run on a piece of ground, our carrying capacity. And because land is so expensive, the number of animals you can support on that land is maybe the single most important factor that affects profitability. Clearly, with prolonged drought, which big parts of the country are predicted to have, that would decrease your stocking rate over time and present a challenge. But even if we don't actually see less precipitation on average, variability itself could be a big challenge. You see the graph on this page. What you see is rainfall and forage production on an experimental range station over about 9 years. And what you see is that in low rainfall years, they had as little as 100 pounds per acre of forage, and in high rainfall years, as much as 700 pounds per acre of forage. And that can be really difficult to manage your stocking rate. If you stock at the average forage production, there's 3 or 4 years where you may be overgrazing and negatively impacting your land. But if you stock at a rate low enough to never be overgrazing, then you probably can't be profitable. You're leaving too much forage in the good growth years. So you need to have a variable stocking rate, but that's challenging. You rarely know when a drought is coming or when you're going to have a good or bad growth year in time to make profitable buying and selling decisions with your herd. So even variability can be a challenge. So what to do about this? The first thing that I think is really important is that I think that ranching and ruminant agriculture is important for battling climate change. I think ruminants are an incentive to leave native rangeland and perennial forages intact. When managed well, I think that ruminant animals can actually improve range health and increase carbon sequestration. And on our own ranch, we think that a focus on soil health and forage diversity is important, because with more diverse forages, we think that we'll be more likely to have some plants that will produce even in drought years and others that will produce in good rainfall events. More diverse and healthy forages supports healthier soil structure, more microorganisms in the soil, more carbon sequestration, and it increases soil structure and infiltration. And infiltration is really important with drought years and with variability in precipitation, because when that rain does fall, let's say in more extreme 1 or 2 inch rainfall events, it's really important to be able to soak that into the soil and hold it on the landscape and grow forages. And I think that well-managed grazing has a big part to do with diverse forages and soil health. We're also trying to better align our production systems with natural cycles. We're trying to better align our calving season with when the grass grows by moving it further into the spring and summer. We're trying to adjust our genetics to have hardier and smaller framed cattle that can do well on lower quality forages in drought years and that can graze longer into the winter without need for harvesting and feeding hay, which is pretty fuel intensive. We're trying to have a more variable stocking rate by, again, changing our calving season, but also having a few less cow-calf pairs and a few more stockers, which are a little bit easier to buy and sell on short notice. I think that reintegrating livestock into cropping systems across the nation is a really big opportunity. I think it makes sense for farming operations to grow more diverse forages, to use cover crops, and then to make those profitable and better for soil by grazing them with ruminant animals. We're trying to do proactive timber management, such as thinning forests to try and help them be more resilient to both fire and to beetle kill. And I do think that renewable energy is a big opportunity for a lot of ranchers. We have been here since 1882, so we have the time horizon to make renewable energy pay off. We have the capital to invest in it. Unfortunately, there are some policy hurdles, I think, but I do think it's an opportunity. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to having more conversations Thursday night.